Hello. Fancy seeing you here. Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Gaming. Again, twice in one night. You know, this is supposed to be a very good way to not get subscribers. If you bombard them with content, they just go away, I'm told. But when have I ever cared about numbers? So, why are we here today? Why are we here tonight? This late hour in the United Kingdom and further Eastern Europe? Well, it is to create characters for Mage the Ascension 20th Anniversary Edition. As you can see from the book that I hold in front of me, I don't think you're going to be able to pick up the lenticular tarot card effect via camera, but trust me, it's there. Dante does burn. Now, why are we doing this? Well, I promised it a long time ago. We did our Vampire the Masquerade character creation, we did our Werewolf the Apocalypse character creation, and now we are doing our Mage the Ascension character creation. Now, for much of this, I'm not going to be reviewing the comments that you are leaving in the chat section. By all means, interact with each other, but I will not be interacting with you hardly at all. And my reason for that is fairly obvious. It's because I'm actually going to be creating character, and that means I'm not going to have a great deal of time to dedicate to answering your myriad of questions. But that doesn't mean I'm not grateful for them. Far from it. I'm very thankful that you are watching this video, and I will tune in whenever I can into that chat section. So thank you very much for all of you who have come back from that recent marathon of approximately 3 hours of me trying to keep up with your various questions and your various dislikes. And I'll piss off, baby Taco, with your thumbs down. We will get straight on to Mage the Ascension. Do any of you have any questions? No? Wonderful. One question, though. Someone asks, once live, is this going to be uploaded to YouTube? This will be available on YouTube to review, so if you need to go to bed now, don't worry. It'll still be here tomorrow and in perpetuity. I'm all in favor of leaving a digital footprint. That is why we're members of the technocracy here. So, what we're going to have to do is something a little clever. We've done it before. We're going to have to try and screen share. Now, when I screen share, the first thing you're going to see is this screen collapsing in on itself. It'll be, what do you call it? A screen collapsing in on itself. It's late. We'll see what happens. I'm a wordsmith. I write for a living. You'll see that. Don't panic. I will then go straight to our Mage the Ascension character sheet where you can watch me fill it in, because that's what some people do for fun. And occasionally I might flick back to my face like that. That didn't work. So we'll click on screen share now. Oh, Now I'm getting a lot of options on the screen share drop down. I think our best bet on here is to go for... God, it all seems a bit screwed up, actually, this. So let me just give it a sec. It's been quite a while since I did screen share and Internet Explorer. Good luck, as someone has posted. Yeah, so singularity. That's what I was looking for. Paradox. Yeah, when I try and screen share right now using Internet Explorer, and for why I'm using Internet Explorer, watch the last video. It's because Google Chrome doesn't like its own Hangouts. I'm getting a lot of error text. So let's see what happens if I share this screen now. So if I go back and click on here, I'm guessing you're not going to see much of anything. But if I go on here, I currently have the Mage the Ascension character sheet up before me. But can you see it? That's the question, because I can't see what you're typing. So I'm going to leave it up here for a few seconds, just to see whether there's lag. And then I'm going to click back on the YouTube video, and I want you to just say yes or no. If you say no, you're seeing a black screen, and we'll work out a different way of doing it. If you're saying yes, well, that's obviously good. So it's been up for a long enough time. Are you saying yes or no? Yes or no? It's massively zoomed into the top. Well, that's no good. All right then. Okay. You can probably now see my yeah, you can probably see your own comments now. All right, so that's a little strange that it's zoomed in. Whoa, okay. Now I need you to tell me whether this is good enough, because I've zoomed out of the file on my screen. Hopefully it will mean I've zoomed out of the file on yours as well. Tell me if this is good enough. Yeah? You can only see the top half of the screen. You're good. We can see it. Yep. Okay. Good. Wonderful. A little bit better. A little bit. A little bit. All right. Let's get this party going. So I don't know why it's only showing part of the screen. Obviously, I can see the full bloody thing, but such is life. So Mage the Ascension. You may be unfamiliar with Mage the Ascension because I haven't spoken about it a great deal on my channel. Mage the Ascension is, of course, a World of Darkness game, and let's stop this screen share for the time being. So one of the World of Darkness games I've not actually covered in a great deal of detail. I've spoken at some length about both Werewolf and Vampire. I've implored my love for Wraith the Oblivion. I've even spoken to a limited degree, I think, about Demon the Fallen. But Mage the Ascension has fallen off the radar for quite a while. And why is that? Well, quite frankly, it's because I always struggle to find the horror in Mage the Ascension. And it almost feels like it's only with maturity that I have discovered that. I know that sounds a bit strange and maybe a tad pretentious, made even more pretentious by the fact that I said tad. But my reason being that in Mage, you are playing what are ostensibly mortals with innumerable powers, and you can potentially alter the world. Therefore, the horror is in the amount of power that you have at your disposal. That should be horrific, but for most groups, it's just carte blanche to go mad with power. Obviously, there's certain kickbacks in the form of the game and things like paradox that will prevent you from going absolutely mad with power, because if consensus is unhappy with what you are doing, you're throwing fireballs down High Street, paradox will come and eat you, or technocrats will come and stop you, or the other traditions will think this person's insane, maybe he's a marauder, I will stop them. In short, you can't just go power mad unless everyone around you believes what you are doing is perfectly normal. This game is all about the power of belief. So is that horrific to me? Well, no. Where this gets horrific for me, and this is something I've only really come to realize about Mage the Ascension, the horror is in the distance from humanity. It's not dissimilar to Vampire in that sense. The more powerful you get, the more range of powers you gain, the less human you become, because you're no longer bound by the petty constraints of humanity. All of a sudden, your mortal relatives and companions are pretty insignificant to the things you know, the truth you're aware of, the abilities that are at your fingertips, and the fact is they will never, ever be aware. They just cannot be aware of what you are. So the horror of Mage the Ascension comes more through, I guess, personal loss, distance. I guess, what would another word be? A form of detachment, that the only people you can truly relate to are mages like yourself. And that is horrifying. It's a little like if you go through a battlefield trauma and the only people you can really speak to about it are the other people who went through that trauma with you, because there's no way anyone else can ever understand the kind of horrors you have seen. That's Mage the Ascension. You can be utterly powerful, but ultimately the more powerful you get, the less human you become. So, and as Zachary Goodrich has said, the horror of man being able to bend reality is very scary, but some players do actually think it's just a superhero game, and obviously that's true as well. Some people say this is why I run a technocracy game, Pazuzu says, but I think traditions can be just as scary. When asked, by the way, why I am doing Mage the Ascension, not Mage 2nd Edition, it's because I've done Masquerade and Apocalypse, and it would be impolite of me to not move on to Ascension next. I'll get to the Chronicles of Darkness games, don't you worry. So, we're going to create our character, and it may well be that you'll have to keep my happy face on the screen just there's movement, because I'm not confident in the screen sharing tech that Internet Explorer is throwing at me, because you're only able to see a part of the character sheet that I can see all of, and no matter how I adjust it, I don't think you're getting to see the full picture. So let's go through this bit by bit. I'm not going to keep doing this because it's a very expensive book, and I don't want to just throw it in your face. See, look, you can actually see this character sheet more clearly now that I'm holding up to the screen like some crappy YouTube video where someone's recording their television than when I was doing a screen share with the PDF. The first things you have to decide in Mage the Ascension are, as with all other storyteller games, your character's name, the chronicle you're playing in, your nature and demeanor, and we'll stop there. So, first things first, let's go to you, the viewers. Do you want this character to be... who should this character be? I think that's the best way of phrasing this question. Someone come up with a name for me. I'm waiting. First name thrown out that isn't utterly ridiculous. I'm waiting. Someone type in a name. Don't make me come up with one. Adrian. Okay, thank you, Adrian. And because... thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Louis. Or Lewis. And because Luis Jimenez has come up with Adrian, this character's name will be Adrian Jimenez. There we go. So we have a character now by the name of Adrian Jimenez. Now, that may tell us something about where this character is from, but it doesn't have to. I will share for you the full character sheet once I'm done. So, nature and demeanor, if you're unfamiliar with the concept, are introduced in World of Darkness, that every character has a nature and every character has a demeanor. Nature is your inner self, your secret personality, the thing you're really striving for but can't necessarily express, whereas your demeanor is the persona you project. Mechanically speaking, if you are able to get your nature across, or rather achieve what your nature wants you to do during the course of the game, generally via your demeanor, you can recover an asset in the game called willpower. Willpower allows you to do things like score automatic successes when you're rolling dice. So natures and demeanors in this game are, as ever, pretty expansive. So before we decide on what nature and demeanor Adrian Jimenez has, let's go for... oh, and by the way, Zachary, likening it to id and ego, it's not that dissimilar, nature and demeanor. Let's ask you guys and girls, and whatever else you may be, what kind of person is Adrian Jimenez? Now, before you answer, before you start typing things, the first thing I want to ask you is possibly the most important, and the first person to answer will be the person who gets the choice here. So fingers on buttons, please. I'm going to give you a couple of age ranges, and I want you to decide which you're going for. Now, you've got to go for the age ranges I specify. If you just specify an age, I'm not going to listen to your answer. So the age range choices are aged 13 to 17, 18 to 22, 23 to 30, 31 plus. One of the age ranges, please. Not a specific age. 18 to 22. Okay, we've gone for 18 to 22. Thank you, Eon1. Right, so we have an 18 to 22-year-old who has just awakened and become a mage. That's quite young. So Adrian is unlikely to be a full-fledged professional. It's quite possible he's a student. What do you think this Adrian is a student? I'm going to give you three options here. He is an outsider, a student, or he is a worker. Outsider, student, worker. Outsider is anyone who happens to be unemployed, ex-convict. Student, we'll get on to. Worker, fairly obvious, he has a job. He's an outsider. Okay, first answer there. He's an 18 to 20-year-old outsider by the name of Adrian Jimenez. Thank you very much, everyone who is just bombarding the chat log. This is good. This is interaction. One of you may get your choice. We have outsider punk. Now, there aren't many. Well, obviously, punk exists to a certain degree. He could be an outsider student, of course, with a job. But right now, the defining feature of him is he's 18 to 22 years old, and he's an outsider. So he doesn't have a job. Now we want to decide what is it about him that makes him an outsider. I'm going to give you three choices now. Yeah, I could try straw polls, but I'm actually quite enjoying people just throwing their voices into a wind tunnel right now. Now I'm going to actually give everyone the choice to throw in ideas, and I will choose the one I find most interesting. So there's improvisation. Why is he an outsider? And I'm not choosing that he's a furry, because I think that would lose the gravitas of what this game's about. So you can put in whatever you like. Why is he an outsider? He's an orphan. Okay, we could go for orphan. Orphan is fairly traditional. He's a narcissist. Okay, so he's a narcissistic orphan, maybe. He dropped out of college early. Okay, so we were going for the student option, maybe, and he dropped out. And he's schizophrenic. That's not schizophrenic, he's schizophrenic. That sounds painful. He's of the LGBTQ spectrum. Could make him an outsider, especially if he comes from a Catholic background. He's homosexual with a homophobic family. He's an ex-drug addict. Because he is an orc. He has a borderline personality disorder. He is a gay furry. Okay, so there's lots of mature answers coming across here. We are going to go for... Oh, well, actually, that's a nice long answer there from Chicken Wing 95. You'll have to excuse I'm really enjoying the answers that some people are coming up with and ignoring the ones I don't. Refugee is nice as well. A deserter. You know, for all of those answers that I particularly liked, a deserter is actually quite nice. It's quite subtle. So, John DeLudek and Baby Taco, I'm actually going with both or two of your answers here. He is a deserter and he has PTSD. So, there we go. So, he's suffering from PTSD, and so he deserted from his military unit. And there we go. Now we know he's an outsider. So now we can actually start looking at natures and demeanors, and they can start to make a bit of sense. If any of you have Mage the Ascension 20th Anniversary Edition, they're on page 250. But if you don't, I think the best options here for the demeanor he projects, he's unfortunately suffering from PTSD. And I think the most appropriate demeanor for that would probably be, not that he's necessarily defined by it. I see perfectionist is on there. Risk averse. Risk averse probably makes sense. So maybe he is as much as I don't like to create loners usually, I think loner makes sense as his demeanor because he doesn't necessarily trust himself around other people, and he doesn't trust other people. He is a deserter. He may be a wanted man. So what's his nature? What's his inner nature? What is the person he is? Maybe the PTSD doesn't let it out very often. Yeah, well done, Raul. Geraldo. Yeah, that's one of the commentators. I think, as I'm not getting any suggestions for natures, I think, given that Nawaf FFF said perfectionist at the top. Oh, competitive. Competitive is on there. Can that be a nature? You know what? I think Robert Wagner. I think caretaker is appropriate. You know, it makes for an interesting character, and there's nothing wrong with that. That he's a loner on the outside, he's got a gruff exterior, but he's a caretaker. This may sound archetypal, but you'll see as this character gets built that he's anything but. So right now we have Adrian Jimenez. He is an 18 to 22-year-old deserter, presumably from the army. He's suffering from PTSD. He projects an aura of being a loner. However, he is a caretaker of others, or wants to be. He just can't express it. Okay, so that's brilliant. We have our archetype. We have our archetypes. Whenever he manages to get the caretaker nature across, he will now recover willpower. So now we get into essence. Now, essence is something that is uniquely mage. And basically, playing to your essences, I'll read some of the essences part for you so that this isn't completely unknown. Let's find it. There's 4 potential essences, and these are the essences of your avatar. When you first awaken, your avatar is basically, it's like your soul, and your avatar can reincarnate into other bodies and make them into mages as well. And there's 4 different types of avatar, and they can be dynamic, pattern, primordial, and questing. So a dynamic essence embodies change itself, manifesting as mercurial temperament, passionate emotions, restless drive, fickle spirits. Pattern is more for stability, order. If dynamism is fire, pattern is stone. They approach things with deliberate intent. Primordial, before light and order existed, primordial chaos was the essence of the universe. Even now, that eternal enigma beckons the human soul in the shape of eerie and often sinister avatar forms. Primordial mage loves mystery, is like water element. And then we have questing. Wherever windmills beckon, you'll find questing mages preparing to tilt, vagabonds, errants, and the like. So I'm seeing a lot of people suggest questing. He's seeking mystery. Yep, that's 3 people suggesting questing now. So I think questing. Okay. What that actually means is, well, we will find out. The point being, all avatars have one of these personalities. All of them have an essence. And in fact, Zachary Goodrick points out something important. Questing. He obviously left the military on some sort of goal, if only to be on his own. I think questing works out very, very well. I agree dynamic would have worked too, but we're going for questing. So we're actually getting through this quite nicely. The next thing is affiliation. Now, affiliation is, and I will show you the character sheet just to show you where we've got to. Affiliation is, I guess, like your Camarilla, your Sabbat, your Anarch. Affiliation is, in the case of Mage, the Ascension, traditions, technocracy, or something else. Now, although technocracy is always fun, or certainly incredibly interesting to talk about, to write about, as this, as the Free Council are in Mage the Awakening, Robert, but thank you very much for the suggestion. As this video, I guess, will serve to create, or to advise people on creating normal Mage the Ascension characters, traditional, I think we'll go for one of the traditions. Don't feel bad that you don't know the lore of this game, Eon 1. This will hopefully help you understand it. So when your avatar awakens, this is to give you a little bit of grounding. Mages around you will pick up on it and indoctrinate you into their tradition or into the Technocratic Union. Now, the main difference between the two is the traditions are all about ascension, hence the name of the game, at least theoretically speaking. They want to become as enlightened and awakened as possible and become something other than a basic human. Now, this is your general conceit. Obviously, every mage is different and will have different objectives, but most of the traditions want this, the Council of Traditions. There's 9 of them. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, you have the Technocratic Union, and they don't want people to ascend, or if they do, it's not necessarily in the same way as the awakened traditions do. And where their fundamental differences come down is how they treat the unawakened and the sleepers, the mortals, the people who aren't mages. The traditions, a lot of them, want to come to a point where everyone in the world is capable of practicing magic. The technocracy want the exact opposite. They don't think humans can deal with that kind of enlightenment, that kind of awakening. They think it'll be dangerous. So they want to suppress that kind of thing. Now, I know these are general terms. Anyone who watches this is a big fan of Mage of the Ascension will probably poke holes in this, but this is the general approach. So you have this thing called consensus and belief. Now, consensus is what everyone believes. So the world that we live in is full of a belief that if someone jumps off a skyscraper, they're not going to fly. They're going to land splat on the ground. If someone does fly, people won't believe what they're seeing unless there is, let's say, some technology that this person is wearing that makes it look like they can, or there's some other fluke coincidence or planned coincidence that allows the magic to come off. And that's how magic works in Mage the Ascension. You need to compel enough props around you to actually make your magic make sense. So the technocracy have it a bit easier, you could argue, because they can go around with the latest in at least appearing technology to make their magic come off successfully. Whereas the mages of the traditions will use more arcane methods, unless they are members of a certain tradition that we'll get onto soon, or a couple of them. So there are a couple of other major affiliations in Mage the Ascension. A few, in fact, the Disparate Alliance, which are lots of loners. You have the, again, generalizing here, you have the Nefandi, who don't want it to awaken, they want humanity to descend. And you have the Marauders, who exist in a perpetual state of quiet, which is magical madness. If you want to know more about Mage the Ascension, as people are asking, go on drivethrurpg.com and look up Mage the Ascension. Find 20th Anniversary Edition. This is a beautiful book, as you can see. Now, this is the deluxe edition, but the art on the inside will look as good as what I've got. It really is a stunning piece of work. And the closest comparison a lot of people make to modern media is you get it on drivethrurpg.com. The closest comparison is to something like The Matrix, because in The Matrix, obviously, our heroes know that the world around them isn't entirely accurate, isn't entirely true, and they want everyone else who's trapped in this Matrix to awaken as well and be as alert as them, because they're all trapped in this sort of sleeping state. You could, and this is really ham-fisting it, you could compare the agents to the technocracy because they want to keep humanity in the dark. But I think it's fairer to say that Cypher in the Matrix is like a technocrat, because he thinks everything would be better if everyone was ignorant, but he is still human. The other crew, and this is testing my memory because it's been a while since I've seen The Matrix, of the Nebuchadnezzar are tradition mages. The agents are paradox. Now, this is what happens if you use magic and people don't believe it, or what can happen. Paradox can come along and eat you up. And that's not the company paradox. That is a black hole in time and space and reality and belief, and it will punish you for using magic that no one believes. So in other words, if you do throw a fireball down Main Street and lots of people see you and you don't have a flamethrower in your hands or something that could double as one, and no one believes it, then Paradox might just zap you off to a pocket dimension somewhere. The Langoliers, exactly. Stephen King reference, but not that awful TV movie, which has a young Robert Morse in. Exactly. The universe does not like you breaking the rules, and neither does consensus. So, with all that said, we have the Traditions, who are your traditionally playable faction. You have the Technocracy, who are also playable, but not necessarily appropriate to a starting character creation video. And you have your others. I'm going to suggest that we go with Tradition Mages. Now, those of you who know of Mage the Ascension already, I would like for you to suggest the tradition you would like Adrian Jimenez to be, of which Adrian Jimenez should be a member. So if you could do that, rather than me listing all the way through them, and then I will explain what some of these traditions are about. So we have a Verbena suggestion. Someone is very keen on the Men in Black. The Euthanatos being scared of death. Chakravanti. Okay, that does make sense. Verbena or Verbena. Order of Hermes. Okay, so we're basically getting everyone suggested now. Order of Hermes, Celestial Chorus, God of Ecstasy. The only one I'm seeing repeated here are Euthanatos. Field medic, healing magic, be good at keeping those around and functioning in combat situations. There is no PC game for this, I'm afraid. You know, it seems a little obvious, but I think the Euthanatos would be a good match for him, good due to his nature. But there's nothing saying that the tradition that found him when he awakened is the one that he should be in. So, I think I'm going to go for Euthanatos. Euthanatos are otherwise known as the Chakravanti, especially in this edition. The Euthanatos, I will find the illustration for you, because the splats, as they're called in World of Darkness games, are what make the World of Darkness games as rich as they are. I'll find this one for you. Euthanatos. So let's get this. There you go. Euthanatos are, to put it simply, death mages. But that is putting it simply. The Euthanatos believe in the wheel of life. Of all its spokes, I believe all 8, and reincarnation, death, life, rebirth. They are compelled to bring about the end of suffering, bring about the birth of life, and settle people's karmic debt, one could say. So, again, I am very much simplifying what the Euthanatos are about. So, as Robert Wagner has asked, would he be attracted to life and death due to him being in the military? Possibly. And it may be an unhealthy attraction. I like that a lot, actually. Good idea. So, Comrade Potato, you are correct. We are going with the Euthanatos. Death isn't just a word to me, it's Genesis, and not the band. Although I guess for me, Genesis is death. So, and that is the band. Sorry, my dear wife. She likes them. So, that's the tradition we're going with. We will go back to character creation, but I will make a note to return to the Euthanatos because we're going to need to look at that when we go to make our spells. And you're right, Eon One. If they know death, they must also know how to keep people away from it. You are exactly right. And that is partly the shtick of the Euthanatos. The Euthanatos that goes around murdering everyone, who goes around as a actual corpse-raising necromancer, will not be regarded very highly by the rest of his tradition. Because, for one thing, it puts the tradition in disrepute. And another, that's not helping anyone be reborn. You need to have a balance of life and death. So we have now covered his affiliation being traditions. We have covered his sect being the Euthanatos. And his concept is he is an AWOL soldier suffering PTSD. I can see that when he awakened, that is when he went AWOL. So that's when he gained this sight into, into the real world. He gained his avatar, could probably interpret it. There we go. So now we're on to the good old-fashioned World of Darkness attributes. The attributes being physical, social, and mental. And just like all other World of Darkness games that spring to mind, you have 7 to split between one, 5 to split between the other, 3 between the other. What order, rather than doling them out point by point, because that's going to be very boring. And actually, good question, Eon. Did he awaken because he went AWOL, or did he go AWOL because he awakened? That's something we can contemplate. Do we think he's going to be physical first, social second, mental third? Which do you think will be primary? Physical stats, social stats, or mental stats? You tell me, which will be primary? Feel free to post while I'm drinking. And let's see whether we can reach some good old technocratic consensus. Social last, that seems to be a uniform theme. Oh, Baby Taco thinks social first. Okay. Yeah, majority of people saying social is tertiary, so we will do social last. So we're getting a fairly even split, like mental and physical. Between mental and physical being primary. I'm going to make a call, and I'm going to say that. See, I was going to go physical there, but people keep throwing these things at me. This is a very much even split that I'm getting. I'm going to go for mental first. Mental, physical, social. Now, just because he was a soldier doesn't mean he was a grunt, doesn't mean he was a jarhead going around with a rifle. As some people are pointing out, could have been an analyst, could have been a medic, could have been anything in the army. The army is a very broad palette. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that he had mental first. He's clearly a very thoughtful person. So we're going to go for mental, physical, social. And I'm going to choose here. Now, I can choose whether I want to, how I want to spend my 7 dots. He already has 1 dot in perception, in intelligence, and in wits. I think it makes sense that in his profession, I would probably put wits and perception on 3 of those points each. No, I put 3 points in wits, putting up to 4 dots in total, 2 dots in perception, making it 3 dots in total, and 2 dots in intelligence. So, making 3 dots in total. So what I'm going to do is update the character sheet, just in case you can ever see it. I know you can't right now. So, let's do this. I'm liking the way this character is shaping up. I will have to add him into a book. It's that easy. I'm just filling in the rest of the character sheet now. AWOL medic. Nature was caretaker. Demeanor was loner. essence was questing. Okay, then. And we're going for physical after that. Do you think... I think it's more likely he'll have stamina higher than dexterity and strength, but I'm going to defer to you lot. So he has 5 dots between all of them. Maybe he was a medic among the engineers. I quite like that. I'm seeing weapons operator, programming target algorithms and the like. Yep, I can get down with all of this, all of these suggestions. They're good. So... physical. He already has 1 dot in strength, 1 dot in dex, 1 dot in stamina. He has another 5 dots to spread. I want to put 3 dots in one of those, strength, dex, or stamina, 2 dots in the other 2. Which one are we going to go for, people? Stamina or dex? 3 in strength, says Eon. If it was a field medic, dexterity would take priority for the quick sewing. That's a good point. Meatball surgery. Yep. Yep, okay, I'm liking a lot of people are using a lot of justification for their dexterity. So we're going to go for dexterity highest. Thank you very much, everyone. So let's fill that in now. Okay, and then we have our 3 dots to spread between social. We could do the even spread, or does anyone think he is particularly weak when it comes to either charisma, manipulation, or appearance? I don't like the idea of him being a hideously ugly character. I just don't picture him that way, so I'm going to put 1 in appearance. So do we want to say he has no manipulation skills and no charisma? Because that could be a character who's not very much fun to play. What do you people think? Even spread? Or low manipulation? Yeah, a couple of people saying low manipulation, and even more are saying even spread. So let's go for the even spread. I agree that as an outsider, he might not be very charismatic. That is true. If he's an officer medic, he's going to need some manipulation. That's very true. Let's go for that. And in fact, yeah, as a medic, he's going to need some charisma just as a bedside manner. Although he could be like, what's his name in Frank in MASH. So now we're on to abilities. There's a lot of abilities. What I need all of you to do right now while you're watching me, if you're on your PC, is you need to go on Google. You need to type in Mage the Ascension character sheet. And then you need to go to Mr. Gon's website. And Mr. Gon will have a Mage the Ascension 20th anniversary edition character sheet. Or you know what? We could. I'm going to try screen sharing again. And when I do, I need you to tell me whether you can see. All right, so here we go again. We're screen sharing again. I need you to make sure that you can actually see the abilities part of the character sheet. So I'm leaving this up in case there's lag. I'm leaving it up for 5 seconds before I flick over to the video so I can see your chat. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Could you see the abilities section? Yeah, it says a bit more right and down. Unfortunately, some people can see the top corner. I don't know why it isn't working properly. So we'll go back to where I am. You'll get me again. So here we go. I'm going to give you the character sheet again on here, because apparently it's clearest when I just hold the damn book up. As you can see, the character sheet there, he has talents, skills, and knowledges. We'll have 13 dots to spread between one set, 9 between another, and 5 between the last one. We'll be able to bump some of these up using freebie points later on in character creation, but for the time being, we're going to want to put 13 in one set, 9 in another, 5 in another. I want you to have a good look just at this list of abilities very quickly, and if you can see anything on there that you think he is almost guaranteed to have, medicine is an obvious one, although if he has more than 3 dots, there's a question as to why he's in the army and not actually in an excellent hospital. Then again, it might be from conscience, who knows? He could have been drafted. We don't know when this game is set. I need you to have a look at these abilities, and if there are any that you think it's absolutely essential he has, write them in the chat log. This book is going down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you've got my face again, because I need to see what you're typing. So, let's see. What are you typing? Let's see. Knowledge, skills, talent. Medicine is obvious. Meditation, yep. Medicine, firearms, stealth. That makes sense. Survival, athletics, technology. Yep, I'm seeing some obvious choices here that make sense to me. Okay, all right. Now, what we also need to consider is how long he has been a mage, and I'm assuming it's not terribly long, but we will be a little creative here. So we know he needs to have dots in medicine, so we're going to put a few in there. We are literally going to put a few in there. We'll put 3 in medicine. And someone else mentioned law. I think having 1 dot in law makes sense. He's not due to his mental statistics, I think it's likely he has at least 1 dot in academics, and in fact if he studied medicine he's going to have more than 1 dot, and I think he's more than likely going to have at least 1 dot in computer. Someone suggested occult. I think that's fair as well. Politics and science, not too interested in, although 1 dot in science would make sense given that he's a medic. He probably knows a little about biology. So that leaves us with investigation, esoterica, enigmas, and cosmology as completely empty. And we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in knowledges. I think that makes sense to me, but I just want to make sure you're happy with that he has nothing in cosmology, enigmas, esoterica, or investigation. Eon, you're asking, did he go AWOL because he awakened, or did he awaken because he went AWOL? I think he went AWOL because he awakened. All right, so we're going to go over to skills or talents now. If we put 9 in knowledges, we have 13 to put somewhere and 5 to put somewhere. So looking at the list of skills, there's an awful lot there that a soldier would find useful, all the way from, well, so crafts could be everything from, well, if he's an engineer, craft is very important, but drive, important, firearms is important, meditation is important so that he can recover quintessence, which we'll get onto later, melee, obvious. You know, I'm leaning towards putting 13 in skills, which is fairly uncommon for World of Darkness games. Talents are, of course, incredibly useful. You have talents like alertness, which is your reactions, athletics, which allows you to dodge things, awareness, which is your analysis of the supernatural, how aware you are of it, brawl, fist fighting, empathy is understanding people, expression is how well you express yourself. I don't see him as terribly intimidating or fit for leadership, given that he's a loner, or streetwise, or subterfuge. So what I'm going to go for is I'm going to make him a pretty decent soldier as far as things go. He's got 2 dots in drive. He's going to have at least 1 dot in craft because he's probably got to know how to disassemble and reassemble and clean various equipment. Firearms, he's going to have 2 dots in. He's not a sniper. And 1 dot in etiquette because he's not uncouth. No dots in martial arts. I'm going to give him 2 dots in meditation So he's quite balanced in skills. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 dot in melee. That's 9 again. Research makes sense if he's a medic. So now we've got 2 dots in research. That's 11. And 1 dot in stealth, 1 dot in survival. That's 13 in total across skills. And hopefully I'll be able to show this to you before the end of character creation. So talents, we only have 5 dots, which probably sounds quite woeful, but we're going to put 1 of those in alertness because he's not deaf as a post. We're going to do 1 in athletics, 1 in awareness, 1 in brawl, and 1 in empathy because it's his feeling, his having a heart that's this big, that has led to him getting to where he is today. So there's only 5 dots in talents, but don't worry because we can use freebie points later to increase them. So now is the particularly interesting part. Yeah, he's got 1 dot in brawl, chicken wing. I have no dodge on my character sheet. It's been rolled into athletics. So it never feels like you have enough dots to spread throughout a character sheet, but it ends up making sense by the end of it. Spheres. Well, now we're onto the back onto the mage specific traits. Spheres are your magical schools, I guess you could say, like in Dungeons and Dragons, your necromancy, your transmutation, and so on. Your spheres are here. See? In the middle of the screen. Now, that doesn't tell you much. They're a little like disciplines, but here's the thing. Although Mage the Ascension comes with some suggestions for what each sphere can do, what they do in a game of Mage the Ascension is actually entirely up to the player. This is where Mage differs from any of the other World of Darkness games, because if, let's say, I want to put dots in time and mind, I could, let's say, rewind someone's memory, or I could access earlier memories in their head because I'm using time in conjunction with mind. Or I could remove memory of myself, or I could make them remember something that hasn't happened yet, so give them deja vu, that sort of thing. If I wanted to use something like entropy plus spirit, I could use that to cleave my way through the gauntlet and get my way into the Shadowlands. Entropy would corrode it, rot it, and spirit would enable me to actually move there and exist there in a sort of astral form. Mage is a very creative game in that respect, because while there are books out there such as How Do You Do That, which is an excellent source book that came out for Mage 20, which has a whole list of spell options within it. If that doesn't interest you, the game itself basically gives you free rein to do whatever you want. The only limit is your imagination. I know that sounds very fanciful, but it's true. The only limit in Mage the Ascension is what you can get away with. So we're going to go with Euthanatos traditional spheres. The Euthanatos traditionally have affinity spheres of entropy, life, and spirit. And in those spheres, we will put 6 dots across entropy, life, and spirit. 1 must be in entropy, which is the affinity sphere. I'm thinking, so just to clarify what these spheres do. Entropy isn't just about killing things, it's about affecting probability as well. I can see how that could be very useful on a battlefield, and of course in a surgeon's tent, because you're going to be trying to reduce the probability that someone dies of this incredibly lethal wound, and you might be able to justify it as well using your magic. However, we do know that he hasn't been using this magic whilst in the army because he's gone AWOL. I agree. I don't think we should put everything in life as Zararion. I think we should put some But I'm tempted to say that as we got 6 dots and we can spread them between entropy and life, I'm tempted to say we do 3 dots in entropy, 2 dots in life, 1 in spirit. I don't think he really uses spirit yet, but I think it's a nice touch. It means he's starting to interpret the dead, and that's possibly why he's suffering his PTSD. Maybe he's suffering a massive amount of guilt. So 3 in entropy, 2 in life, 1 in spirit. I think mind is appropriate, Zachary, but we're just going to go with the core spheres for Euthanatos on this one. So at least for now, anyway, we'll see what we do with our freebie points. So what can you do with entropy and life? Life, as it implies, is you can actually make life grow in amazing ways. We can influence organic beings, the physical structure of living bodies. Entropy, study of mortality, probability, and chaos. And our other one we were going for is time. Perception of influence over, not time, rather, spirit even. Contact with otherworldly spaces and entities, considered an art by mystics and a science by technocrats, though in game terms it's all the same thing. You do have to take at least 1 affinity sphere, Mr. Agogo. I'm suggesting that we go with all affinity spheres so this person feels truly Euthanatos-y. And unless someone thinks, oh, yeah, you know what, again, Robert Wagner, your arguments are sound, using spirit to escape into the Shadowlands to escape from truant officers. That's a nice story. So when he first awakened, he escaped into the Shadowlands, managed to get out of his cell. You have convinced me, Robert Wagner, to put 3 dots. Okay. We're going to do 3 dots in spirit, 2 in entropy, and 1 in life. Despite the fact life seems the obvious choice because he's a medic, doesn't mean he's necessarily good at the magic of it yet. And maybe that's something for him to aspire to. So I'm going to update the character sheet. So here we go. So yeah, one of the wonderful things about Mage is when you're playing it, you can create your own spell books. You can basically come up with spells during the course of the game. If you can think of an interesting way to combine entropy and forces, or time and correspondence, and so on, you can basically use it in the course of the game. So, for instance, in the game of Mage I'm currently running, a player decided to use prime and I think correspondence to drain quintessence, which is like your blood pool in Mage, from a distance, and named the spell and added it to a piece of paper. And that piece of paper started expanding with lots of different spells now. And that's quite interesting because it means the player is basically creating their own spell book. And it means they don't need to think on the fly of these spells in the future. They can just refer to it. And they never need to spend a cost to do it. It's just there. It's in their head now. They can do it forevermore. And it's quite a nice prop. I can well see if you did something like this in LARP, and I have no doubt that it has happened before, that in Mage LARPs, people are going around with their own spell books of spells they have come up with, various different combinations of spheres that allow them to do these things. So we are very nearly at the end of our character creation. We now have backgrounds. We have 5 dots to put in backgrounds, of which there are many in V20, in M20. Many. So I don't think he should have allies. I don't think he should have an alternate identity because he didn't escape through subterfuge as much as magic. Arcane, mysterious ability to remain unrecognized, I think makes sense. Maybe give him a dot in Arcane. So we'll note that down. Arcane basically allows you to conceal your magical essence. Avatar, embodiment of the awakened. I think the avatar spoke to him, so his avatar has a couple of dots because it's quite powerful. I think, what else do we have? He won't have a chantry yet because he's very new. Contacts. I don't think he's going to be completely out of contact with the various soldiers he patched up. So we'll put at least one dot in there. He doesn't have a cult yet. Domain, a personal inner dream space. That could be interesting. I'll keep that in mind. Fame, is he notorious in the sleeper world? No, people go AWOL quite often, surprisingly, but they do. Does he have a familiar yet? No. Influence? No. Does he have a legend? Not yet. Or a library? Probably not. I don't think he should have a mentor because the avatar can kind of work as that for him right now. Maybe he pictures the avatar in a certain way and it speaks to him. Does he have a node that belches out quintessence, which is his magic power? No. He's probably still on the move. Just scanning down them. I doubt he's got resources because he's on the run. Okay, then. So, with all that said, I think it's likely I'm going to put another dot in contacts. So this is an interesting mix of backgrounds to start the game because he's just got one dot in Arcane to barely conceal his magical essence. He's got 2 dots in Avatar, which means he kind of has a mystical mentor. It's his own spirit talking to him, his own soul. And he has 2 dots in contacts, which are his old army buddies who he patched up. So he can probably hide out in veterans' hospitals and hospices and the sorts of places they hang out. So that is backgrounds at this point. We now do... Let's see. Oh, no, there's 7 dots for backgrounds in Mage. My apologies. So I think we will give him 1 dot in fame. Whether it's good or bad, he is known. After all, he did disappear from a locked cell. And I think we'll give him something a little different. Maybe... I think the domain, his personal inner dream space, allow him to recover quintessence and the like. So now we record his beginning arete, which is 1, which is the number of dice he rolls whenever he wants to cast magic. You'd never need to combine an attribute and an ability in this game to use your magic. You just roll however many dots you have in arete and aim for 6 or above to get your magic off. Willpower is 5 to start because all mages have decent willpower. Decent, not brilliant, but that can go up further. Quintessence is equal to the avatar rating. And paradox is 0. Now he has 15 freebie points to spend. I'm just going to check back in the chat. So now that he has got his freebie points, the question is, where are we going to put them? So I'm going to recap what he has right now. And I want you to just pay attention to this. Once we go through it, you can tell me where you think he is lacking. So currently his strength is 2, his dex is 4, his stamina is 2. That sounds good to me. His social is charisma 2, manipulation 2, appearance 2. His mental is perception 3, intelligence 3, wits 4. Talent. 1 in alertness, 1 in athletics, 1 in awareness, 1 in brawl, 1 in empathy. I'm seeing a big gap there that could do with filling. Skills. 1 in crafts, 2 in drive, 1 in etiquette, 2 in firearms, 2 in meditation, 1 in melee, 2 in research, 1 in stealth, 1 in survival. Again, I can see some areas for improvement. Knowledges. 2 in academics, 1 in computer, 1 in law, 3 in medicine, 1 in occult, 1 in science. I know that's a lot to take in. If you have any thoughts, post them down and I'll get to them in a sec. Then he has his spheres. He has 2 in entropy, 1 in life, 3 in spirit. His backgrounds, he has 1 in Arcane to keep his magical essence hidden, 2 in Avatar, 2 in Contacts, 1 in Fame, 1 in Domain. He has 1 in Arete, so 1 die whenever he uses his magic, and 5 in Willpower. So the first thing I want to do before I check your comments is he's going to get another dot in Arete. He's a fairly powerful mage who's for Just Awakening, so he has basically 2 dots in Arete, which means he'll be rolling 2 dice whenever he uses his magic. So that costs 4 freebie points. He has 11 left. What have I seen? You put Streetwise and not Survival. I think he must have Survival, Robert, because he was in the army, so he's going to have had basic survival training. And Chicken Wing thinks he should have at least 2 dots in life. That will cost me 7 freebie points if we do. I think knowledges are right, Slagman, you're right. Another 1 in Brawl, 1 in Empathy. 1 more in Athletics. Okay, so we're looking at abilities as his weakest area. I agree that an alternate identity might be useful, so I'm going to give him a particularly weak one. That's 1 dot. And that. Now, how that works is he's got 10 dots left now to spend, or 10 freebie points. And everyone else seems to be suggesting the things like Brawl, Empathy, Athletics. So let's put those up. So that's now 2 in Brawl, 2 in Empathy, 2 in Athletics. So he now has 4 freebie points left. Shall we put 1 in Expression so that he's not... And in fact, Streetwise was mentioned. So 1 in Expression so he's not completely incapable of communicating. And 1 in Streetwise because he presumably has to pretend to be a bum. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, just like that, we have created our mage. Our mage has been created. We now have Adrian Jimenez, our Euthanatos mage. And I don't know how easily you're going to be able to see him on this character sheet because of how awful this screen sharing seems to be. So I'm going to zoom as far away as possible because I want you to be able to see this, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to. And if you can, I want you to tell me. So, time to screen share again. Here we are. Here is our character sheet for Adrian Jimenez. Leaving it up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Going back to the comments. It's even worse, apparently. Ah, well. I'm sad that that's the case. Such is the peril with screen sharing and Internet Explorer. But you get me back, so, you know, there's always that. Should have filled it out on paper and just held it up, or written it into the book. It's only a deluxe hardcover. What does it matter? Well, that is character creation for Mage the Ascension. Our character now would need to search for other mages because it's an unsafe world out there, and someone needs to teach him. So it may well be that Adrian would need to seek out a mentor or would listen to his avatar. Maybe it's worth discussing. No, I did try the mouse controls to adjust the screen focus, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you all got something to say on it, and that was the main point. Collaborative character creation is far more interesting than when you do it on your own, in my opinion. So what's in the future for Adrian? Well, we know he's only recently escaped from the army, and his avatar led him away. Probably the avatar spoke to him and guided him to use his spirit, and maybe it's the avatar that gave him his dot in occult, as that was asked. How do we think Adrian interprets his avatar? How do you think the avatar manifests in his mind? Because for some it's like a big black dog, some it is an elemental spirit that they can see, some will actually speak to them vocally out loud, some will meditate and speak to them internally. How do we see Adrian Jimenez's avatar? Any suggestions? Oh, I don't want to start introducing changelings yet, Robert. I think that'll be for another video. And the next one will be Mage character creation. Something related to the combat area. Sees his avatar as a blown apart soldier he failed to save. Wow. That would be a ghost of a dead friend from the army. Okay, I'm going to make it a little more general. I like there's a dead comrade, maybe the snake on the healing god's staff. A dead sergeant. Saint Luke. Now, I would have gone for Saint Luke if this guy had been a celestial chorister instead of Euthanatos. That's a really good idea. Okay, so there's lots of really good ideas here. But we're going to go for a dead soldier. Exactly, the unknown soldier. Thank you, Daniel Tyson. That's what we were aiming for. Because the avatar is immortal. Well, theoretically. It can be dispersed, although that's a horrible thing to do to any mage. The avatar, once its host dies, will reappear in another mage, and it will be awakened again. So, although it could take the form of a dead sergeant, I think ultimately it is the unknown soldier, or it will... That's what it symbolizes. So yeah, I think that works out very, very nicely indeed. I think that is character creation for Mage of the Ascension done. We can kind of imagine the kind of magic that Adrian would practice. Obviously, he's going to lean towards healing, despite the fact his natural skill isn't in life magic. We can see that he would definitely aim to improve that. I think the fact that he has concentrated on spirits may even tie into the fact that he has contacts. Someone posted that they like rounding out the background dots, and Zachary Goodrich mentioned this, and I agree. Rounding out the background dots is a very important part of character creation in World of Darkness, because it means you're actually giving more depth to the character. So that's what we're doing with the avatar by saying it's the unknown soldier. By giving him 2 dots in context, we can say 1 dot is living soldiers, 1 are dead soldiers. He has 3 dots in spirit. I think he can probably speak to the dead who he failed to save, which is an interesting character in his own right. We have Domain. I wonder what his peaceful place is that he meditates to and drifts away to in his astral projecting way. That would be interesting. Where would a soldier suffering from PTSD go for absolute respite? Because deadly silence can be terrifying in that situation as well. You know, the silence after a battle. I think we've created a very good character, everyone. So, you know, it only took 68 people or so to come up with one Mage the Ascension character. I think that is this video pretty much done. So I'm going to get some sleep. If you haven't actually picked up Mage the Ascension before, I recommend it. It's got a huge amount of depth. It's a World of Darkness game like no other. But I think one thing we've actually explored here is the horror that can even come with the awakening. The fact that it can make you realize the horrors you have been perpetrating or been party to, or that you've been unable to stop. The fact that with awakening, you will be able to use these magics to make people better, potentially, to stave off death. And no one can argue that giving life is a good magic. But because he didn't awaken the week before, the month before, or the 5 years before, however long he's been in the army, he's between the ages of 18 and 22, so he's probably not been a medic for terribly long. He wasn't able to save them because he didn't have the magic at that time. And now that he does have the magic, he's no longer in the army. So he's stuck. What does he do? We have a character here who has a massive crisis of conscience. And I think this is made for a very interesting character creation session, probably the best one yet. So it'll be interesting when we do the Wraith the Oblivion one next. Not tonight. I need some sleep. When we do the Wraith the Oblivion one, whether we create a character who's connected to Adrian, given that we have someone who's died. Don't worry, it won't be another year before I come back. Won't say when, but it won't be a year. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and thank you hugely for your input. It has been great fun to be back. Catch you again.